was thinking the one meditation which might be interesting is the notion of seeing the independence of this experience.
It is like a very straightforward, simple practice. Just as we know there is a driver sits in the car in a certain place. In the same way, we see this body in the image of a car, and his eyes are like the windows, and the driver is seated behind these windows. We are just aware of the presence of this driver. We see this invisible driver in the image of a tiny star. Criticism of the car is not the criticism of the driver.
Welcome. So it's been so nice to have this time to, I guess, reflect on some of the ideas. What stands out from last time?
Yeah, I was saying last time, like, I really liked the idea of the kind of like transient, like traveller, and how we're not deeply connected to all these things and to see them with an outside perspective. I was finding one of the most interesting things about having those ideas kind of put into video format was that I could go back and rewatch them, and they actually helped me focus more, being able to hear them while I tried to meditate again. And so yeah, I've been trying to use the video again and again to try and meditate myself and remind myself of those ideas. So yeah.
Nice. I was reflecting on this, for students, but it applies to everyone on the planet. If they are able to step back from time to time, even for a short while, they will actually be performing better in their life. This happens with everything. Spiritual intelligence, is described. One of the aspects of spiritual intelligence, being able to step back. And the opposite of this is you are saying things, you are doing things, and afterwards you think about this and you may regret. When you are able to step back, even for seconds, you are able to understand the situation better, and then you act, you say it, you speak, then you have better results, and you're just more mature, more solid. So this training is such a useful training. And what we were speaking of, in different format, is skill that we can develop, where you understand that this is not the only reality, there is a reality behind. You are operating with that model. And when you are having this understanding that there is a reality behind, you perform better here. Because you understand that you are okay, things are okay. Just as when we are playing any game, you are playing the game, you are light about it. Even you are light about losing, but that actually helps you to win. So why are you light? Because you know the reality behind. And that even if you lose completely and the game finishes, you got your world of mommy and daddy where you are going to go back. Same happens here in this life. More we understand that bigger map, we'll be able to perform better. And this training is required much earlier, so that further down the line in our life, you will be very efficient leaders, and if you are going to become the prime minister or president, this training at a younger age will prepare you for that. So it is good training for you to be future prime minister.
Yeah, I think I've always, I like my mind, like, oh, yeah, I like to kind of reflect on a situation after it's happened, but being able to actually be present and thinking, like, in the moment from that kind of outside perspective sounds very challenging, and I definitely can't imagine being able to do that
Yes.
just yet. But it's definitely something that would be amazing to be able to do, and if from a young age that would be great to be able to just not control, be in charge of your emotions and
Yes.
kind of mental state to that degree.
Train ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess it's like exercise, like
Yes.
training it and keeping
Yes.
it up.
Yes.
Yeah.
It makes me think of like the roles we play, and you know, playing like a lot of roles, like somebody's friend and somebody's colleague or daughter or maybe a parent, but it's being able to just be a little bit objective about it, and then that's the training, I think, because otherwise we sort of, if we put all those roles in front of us, we can't really say that's who we are, because there may be many roles, but I'm not described by even all of those roles put together. And so that's like the stepping back. It's like just seeing this sense of self can't really be defined completely by any one of those roles or even all put together. So I think that's like the continuity that we start to reawaken in meditation, and that's very stable, so you're just coming back to the same place every time. But that's why the stepping back or stepping into that, and you're not feeling so vulnerable there. Otherwise, when we think with the role, I think I'm, defining myself based upon my success in studies or success in a job or how well relationships going. That's when the thoughts are kind of, I'm dependent, so I'm subconsciously the slave to that going well, or like the sport that stops becoming sport, but it's as if everything, becomes intense. But if that little space, you can, the self-respect based upon who one is beyond that one role. So that's the exercise, I think, the practice.
That's a really good stuff to chew on there. I guess like especially with students with like exams and all the stress and anxiety that comes in hand with that, trying to separate it and seeing that like the role of you're a student, but you're also maybe a daughter or a son, or like you're a friend to certain people, and seeing those different like facets to you and all the different baggage that comes with each of those roles, like seeing it from far away. Yeah.
We give the example, let us say, in a school drama, Mary is acting as a camel, and Susie is acting as an elephant, and there is a dragon. It's a children's drama, and they are acting in the drama. Everyone sees camel and elephant and dragon, but Mary knows that there is a world of Mary, and she has parents, and she has a world different. And even though on the stage she is seeing elephant, she also knows her friend is behind, and there is someone who is a dragon on the stage, but she knows these are all friends. She knows another reality behind this stage, and as a result she enjoys the drama. She enjoys the dragon and elephant, the whole thing she enjoys, the beginning and end, whilst at the same time being aware of this world of Mary behind. Same here. the spiritual message says that this is the camel, elephant, dragon performance going on, and there is a reality behind. The actors are the invisible actors. They got their reality behind. And these invisible actors, they all are good. They are immensely good. Here there is someone is acting as a dragon, but behind everyone is immensely lovely and loving. To start with, it becomes a nice model, and you play with that model. But once you open the door, you continue to know more and more about this, and then the immediate benefit is you enjoy both worlds. You are enjoying the performance, and you are also aware of this world behind. When we are not seeing it as a drama performance, imagine Mary was to really forget that this is a performance. Then she cannot enjoy the drama of the dragon and the elephant. She thinks this is a nightmare, to spend time with the dragon, and she has also lost her world. So one becomes a loser of both worlds. When you understand the bigger picture, you win both worlds. It sort of shows that the life is much richer, and the way the world is created is a big and beautiful deal for us. We are having this world beyond, and that is eternal. Only what is eternal really matters for us. In our present mindset, we are disturbed because there is an end, there is a death. Each and every human being, each and every one on this planet, one word that disturbs them, that is the end. When we are just seeing this world, there is an end, there is a death, and it brings up completely different side of us. It makes us insecure. When we understand the bigger map and discover our own immortality, then you bring the noble side of the person. He can relax. He doesn't need to be greedy. He doesn't need to worry about what am I going to do, how can I survive. This is not an issue anymore.
I think much easier to get my head around when it's with the roles in a play. I really like that image. Yeah, I think I thought I was grasping it before, but I think that actually helped me a lot more. Yeah, they're very visual with the idea of, especially the idea of someone playing a dragon and someone playing like a more like calm, kind creature, and the idea that we all get lost in those roles. Yeah, it's quite easy to get my head around for once. Yeah, thank you. It's a really good image. Yeah.
It gives like grounding to when we hear like the idea of unconditional love. But if it's based on the play, if we love the camel because the camel is sweet and sings really well, or is kind, then one day camel doesn't do that, it's like mean to the elephant in the children's play, then does the love stop? It's like funny. But if the love is for the actors, it's like then that is truly unconditional. It's not based upon the performance. And I think that's like what we're all looking for, isn't it? It's the security. It's like we're not judged and loved just because of actions in this drama of life, but there's something behind that's like really worthy of love and regard and respect. Somehow there's a reference for that. So it kind of helps that sort of become more clear, that it's like everyone is worthy of that great respect. In a sense, the actor is like being of peace, being of love and noble. But if we forget that and we mix it with the play, then we lose that original experience, and it gets, love is dependent. And my own experience of myself being like uh, like a royal, no more noble sense of the self is also lost, because we're coming into this play with like subservience, like a kind of subconscious begging that everyone should behave nicely. I would prefer someone was nice to Sarah than not, but then that consciousness is like going up and down, vulnerable. But when we tune into that invisible side, then there is that peace and stability. You can kind of manage things, play your part, but you're not getting pulled into emotional roller coaster in the same way. If that makes sense.
Yeah. It's really tough though to like not be pulled into the drama of all of it, like the roles. Yeah. And so I guess is the way of coping with not getting lost in it is like through meditation and things like that. Like to have that outside perspective.
Yeah, it's the fact that if we understand it, that's already like changing something.
Okay.
So in a way, the practice to make it like more natural is like, it takes time, but the understanding can be quite quick. But that itself can have an effect, because normally I'm looking for other things to be right or different, and then I'm okay or peaceful. But even the notion that it's from myself, that this positioning of freedom and being at peace is unconditional upon what's happening. Even that notion frees me from trying to fix everything around outside. So we start to get more headspace already. But as you say, the meditation, it's really just creating time to experience. And even if it's a minute, it kind of like lasts, even in 1 minute or so with those feelings. Nothing has had to change, but I've changed the way I see it. It's very empowering.
Yeah. Yeah, because I guess when you're in that moment, at the back of your mind, you've still got that awareness. Like once you think of things that in that way, of like your life in that way. Yeah, that's very powerful.
Maybe you can practice?
Yes, we have the option to use the best sight and best intellect, spiritual intellect. And with this, we are able to see the entire physical world as a theater. So everything that happened today happened in a theater. So for the next few minutes, we really see it like that and mean it. That everything of the past that happened in a theater, and it's a story. There is nothing to worry about in a story. There is nothing to complain about, and nothing to be obsessed about. The moment we understand that was a theater, there was a fun kind of reaction. We are amused by everything. Present is amusement, and the past was also amusing story. Any story is always a gift. Now we choose to step beyond the story. the invisible actor chooses to step behind. And behind is the world of silence. There is no noise of the story. World of complete stillness. We see this in the image of a sky, expanse of light. World of silence, world of complete stillness. This world is timeless. Timeless, changeless, endless. This world exists forever. We see this, how easy it is to direct our attention to this reality. We can direct our attention to this world beyond the story. We can direct our attention where we choose. So right now our eye of the mind is experiencing this dimension beyond. And we are seeing this in the image of the sky, expanse of light, region of complete silence, a region beyond the story. And in this sky are the living stars. They are the invisible actors in that theater. This sky is eternal, and these actors, they are immortal. This is the world of eternal security. Everyone is immortal, everyone is safe. They are immortal regardless of the story. Story cannot change anything of their world. This is the home of the family. All of them are like a family, one family. Family of these invisible stars. We are able to grasp this. Intellect can understand this dimension. see the reality of this. We are able to see the perspective of the invisible actor. How the invisible actor is so carefree. He knows of the real world. He now understands the story as story and the theater as theater. There is no feelings of desperation or disappointment based on the story. He experiences freedom. Mind is free. And experience of authentic contentment, authentic peace, unconditional upon the story. Peace from beyond. As the invisible actor prepares to come back into this physical world, as he prepares to come in the story world, come in the world of sound and actions, he comes as an actor. He remains the invisible actor, not deceived by the glitter and gold on the stage. Understand the props and plots of the theater, the limitations, beginning and end, and know that theater as theater, story as story. He comes in the theater and remembers his immensely beautiful truth.
Yeah, I had to shut my eyes halfway because I was really struggling to visualize the sky and stuff with my eyes open.
Sure.
Yeah, it's like knowing that it's possible to have eyes open is great, but like playing with it.
Yeah, I get really worried though when I shut my eyes and try to visualize. It sounds very basic, but I get a bit sleepy.
Mm.
So I was trying so hard to focus, and then telling myself to focus makes it harder to focus. But yeah, it really helped with the visualization, having them shut. Yeah, very profound.
This like simple sentence, everything that happened today happened in a story. It's like just a way of like diffusing things in that moment. And you know that it's like the mind holiday effect. And I don't know if we were reflecting on it last time, but just you know how you feel when you've had a break, then your mind is so much more. Everything is much clearer. You see what there is that needs to be done, and you feel refreshed, and there's a lot of lightness. But if we can do that by making these like shift and just to, because otherwise it's like clutter is accumulating if mind is constantly creating its narrative about what's happening. But by saying it's a story, you just automatically, things are less intense in that moment. And but having a destination for the mind, like we're using thoughts to create a kind of aim. So Shant was saying your attention is above, and this notion of a place which is stillness and silence, a big contrast to the play, which is of constant sound and change. And the ways we're trying to find constantly manipulate or try to create a space which is pleasing. Then many things are out of my control. So we can use our attention to come to this notion of above the story. It's already there. You don't have to create it.
Yeah.
So, take that as a perspective to play with.
Yeah. Yeah, the idea that with this story as well, like, I don't know if this is reading too much into it, but it kind of has like the introduction, the climax, and like different scenes, and so life isn't always going to be one steady line. Like, you might be moving house, or you've got exams, or there's always going to be peaks in the story, but remembering it's just a story no matter where you are in it seems to be quite helpful. I think right now I'm going through a lot of like busy things, like I am moving house, I've got loads of stuff on with work, but that is still the same story it was when I met you 3 months ago. It's still just a story. But yeah, there's lots of ups and downs with busyness, and then getting lost in it very easily. So yeah, I have to tell myself that when I'm getting lost in all the stress of like emails and moving things, is that it's just this current part of like what's happening.
Time heals. Like when we look back, so it's the distance that we find healing. So in the same way, this is like a kind of healing, the distance of perspective. So you can sort of see it that from a sort of a higher view. Then it has a similar kind of effect that, say, we look back at a time of a lot's going on, or some turmoil or something. We look back at that. In 10 years' time, we look back at ourselves, and it doesn't have the same high emotion. Even in history, we look back, it becomes a story in a sense. It doesn't. So that it's like a healing has happened in a way. So in the same way, it's like doing that, but then being able to come and address the things we need to do, but without the kind of the high drama in the mind.
Yeah.
So why is it that it's understood, but is it always easy?
And a simple model. This is a performance. Shakespeare also says, this is a world is a stage, and we have entrance, exit. And many poets say this, But the ego within us doesn't want to see it as a story and as a theater and with such lightness. Ego says this is all serious and it matters. And I am the king and this is all mine. So ego doesn't want to be too light about it. So he says this is my gold and this is my glitter, and I want more. So that full program, ego is based on ignorance and has got a full program to become bigger. So he says, I want bigger position, and I want a bigger head, and I want more gold. That is absolutely, hardwired. Ego is hardwired for this. So in each one of us, we have to deal with this. We may even understand the bigger map and have experiences, and you step back and ego says, okay, now that is meditation is over. Now let us come back to the real world and let us create more gold, and I have to worry about this and I have to beat someone. So the homework, part of the homework for us is to make the ego small. So that is another nice job for us, how to shrink the ego. most people, they are busy making their ego bigger. And as the ego gets bigger, our life becomes more of a misery.
Okay.
Because ego is hardwired to feel he's a victim. Because his world is temporary world. Everything is changing. So he feels he's going to die, and so he feels he's a potential victim. He is quick at taking offense, quick at giving offense. He is sensitive to this life. And as a result of that, he tends to look for dangers. Anyone who is a victim, he will be looking for dangers. When is there any predator waiting? So he constantly looks for potential dangers and end up collecting all the negative stuff around him. He has to ignore all the positive because he has to look for dangers. So 10 things are going well in his life, okay, but one thing is going wrong. He pays attention to that one wrong thing. You can see the lifeline of all the dictators in history. And the dictators is what happens with dictators. Their ego gets a chance to go into fast lane. So ego is getting bigger and bigger. So this ego now, blown up ego, suddenly is finding is more of a victim. He has got all the guns and everything, but he feels he's a victim more. Smaller ego also feels victim, but bigger ego, that is more serious for him. And so his misery is bigger. He is more paranoid. Any dictators, they will be like this. They are dealing with a paranoia.
So how do we shrink our ego?
How do we shrink our ego? That is your success story.
Well, as well to mention, like the definition of ego here is like false identification, because the word ego gets used in different schools of thought, in different ways in a way, with its own body of understanding. But we're using it here to mean false understanding of the self.
Okay.
So there are two ways, like that. One is coming into clarity is to have focus on the real I, and so then we are getting that self-respect and full experience. So this earlier talked about invisible traveller, or we know that we are guests here, but to give that little bit of time, which is the meditation, to experience the peace of that there, the lightness of that, the joy, which is not dependent on anything or anyone else in those moments. So that is like giving you power and perspective, and at the same time to see, in this case, the roles that I'm playing is relatively insignificant in the bigger map, in the scheme of things. However, what we nearly 9 billion now.
8 billion.
Oh, okay, we're jumping ahead. It's many billions. So all these billions of humans, and all have their own story and all have their parts, and so much going on. And so if that feeling is tied with joy, we sometimes get it happens in nature. We realize how small we are in the scheme of things. So it's to see how sort of relatively small the story around, in this case, the role here. And that is helping also to shrink the ego, that the universe is going around our role usually, and that's what the thoughts. But if we shrink by seeing the relative insignificance in these moments, it's a bit of a relief, because otherwise so much hype, really everything matters so much, what people say about, in this case, myself, Sarah, and what they say about Sarah, what they think and what they didn't say, or what they, ego is so sensitive, even a look or someone doesn't say good morning or someone nice, he goes there like it's a bit triggered. So when we laugh at it as well, that's also quite disarming. The ego shrinking, and so that sort of thing gives us a little space to be able to come back and then again reawaken this I, this true self.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be propped up by others' opinions and not constantly seeking for validation in those moments. But it's sort of like second by second thing. You're like we're accumulating, and we become better at discriminating where we are. All negative reactions are from the ego, all insecurities, all the inauspicious feeling is from the ego. So it helps us to sort of start to notice. I might cook something for a friend and then they might not say anything. I'm thinking, do you like the food? And then they just say, well, I normally don't add so much coriander. Or they just might say one thing, and I might not realise they created an ego. I'm a good cook.
Yeah.
And then if I realise it's my ego, it helps me to be able to be a little bit objective in that moment. I don't instantly snap back and say, well, something bitter back.
Yeah.
So that it gives you space. You use that situation to make the ego less, rather than react from the ego, if that makes sense.
Yeah. If the idea is the more you're encouraging the ego, the more miserable you're gonna get. If you're constantly trying to work for a higher position in life, is that just only gonna lead to sadness kind of thing? If greed is kind of encouraging it, is that, am I a bit off? Yeah.
No, very good, yeah.
So your question, working for a high position in the drama of life doesn't necessarily mean feeding the ego.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with wanting big house and a good job and nice friends and health and prosperity. Those things don't necessarily mean ego.
Okay.
So, but it's coming back to the idea of the game. It's like winning the game, doing well in the game.
Okay.
So that's what kind of completes the circle. But what we also need to remember is to play the game well. We need to remember it's a play. The ego is the one that turns the play into a war. We know how to win, we know how to lose, know how to play well, and know how to fall. And that will make us better players as well. That helps.
Okay.
It's the ego around, someone can have a lot of wealth, but they might not have the ego if they may have self-respect based on something higher, not based on the wealth.
Okay.
Now we use the word ego as Sarah defined when you got a part with Mary is playing the part of the camel, and when Mary starts to think I'm important because camel has got a smart nose, that's why I am important, then we call it ego in this context. Your identity now is based on the story and you are defining yourself, trying to see you are important because of the story. But when Mary is conscious that she is Mary, then it is like a pure self-respect. She's in the self-respect of her, who she is. And a camel has got smart nose, agreed, but she is not parading herself. Look at my nose, that is not happening, or she doesn't even internally think about it. So here in this drama, someone may be playing the part of the king, but that's just a part. The actor has self-respect of being who the actor is. In this case, it is subtle. It is not as gross. We see this world as very gross, but the actor is aware of his dignity from beyond. And because of this broader understanding, that prevents him from going in the direction of ego. So there can be bigger hat, and everyone is praising the nose of the camel, but that is nice, stunt for the drama, but the actor knows his world and reality is different.
Reminds me the example about the dresses.
Yeah.
The girl, you want to...
You want to tell?
Prashant will remember the details better, but just an example of someone who was going to work every day, and they're attractive and they were wearing they wear really nice clothes, but this particular lady getting compliments, oh, it's so nice today, because that's sort of natural. And but in time she had created an identity based upon her appearance and the way she was dressing. So then she was telling, I don't know if it's Prashant directly, she needs to try like 6-7 outfits every morning just to and to get everything right, and it's a bit of a mission every day, because if the compliments weren't still coming, that identity would get like scratched, and so it became it became a bit of a spiral of needing to sustain and maintain that attention, because self-respect had become based upon this external image. So inside is a vulnerability, even though it feels nice at the time, but actually it's like happiness of a babe, because you take that, but then you're more out of touch with a true self-respect and regard. So then her morning routine was getting longer and longer.
She just want more and more, to keep it constant, the compliment.
Yeah.
You're drawn into, and then as the ego gets bigger, and there's more insecurity, because no one says anything about her appearance. That itself was an insecure thing. And someone says something wrong, that is big problem.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it can appear like useful. That's a sort of misunderstanding, say in the workplace, somebody who's really confident and, but if we probably say when we have a job interview, we will work for the good of the company. It's not that, we usually are saying we're working for the team or the bigger organization. But if, taking the thought experiment, someone comes to your team who's similar, could be similar age, similar background, similar education, could be slightly younger, maybe speaks another language or something, then you're there to help, introduce them, and they, mentor them or something. And in time, they learn really fast. They learn some of the skills, things that you're doing, and you're asked to delegate your work, and, what will the feeling be inside? And to the extent I've created identity, self-respect on my role, that's going to be quite challenging. So depending on the person, they may even start to make life difficult for the other one, and that's not helping the team, not helping, it's only serving the identity inside. But if one is more stable, it's like, oh, she can do it a little bit better, I'll help her and I'll support her, and in time maybe people might recognize some noble characteristics in you, and you might get, this has happened, isn't it, when people get promoted because they are trustworthy, they're not just working for their own interest.
Yeah, and it's really hard not to do it for your own interest, but the idea that it ends up more positive, we're all acting like against ourselves, almost like fighting against what would be better for us, and it's a strange situation to be in.
I met one girl, youngish, but she said one day she was not nice to her mother. So her mother asked her, "What's the matter?" And this girl said, "But in my dream you did this and you said this, that's why I'm not nice." So mother said, "But that was a dream." And this girl says, "Yes, but you did it. And now, so what is happening here? She cannot see the boundary between the dream and the real world. It is mixed. She understands it's a dream, but she says, she tells me, even when she was telling me, it is confusing. She says, how can it not be her? Even though it is in the dream. At a certain age, we our system, intellect, if you can say, our brain, we can't see the boundary. It gets mixed up, and it is a confusion. If you are dream and real world, it's all mixed. Then it's confusion. Something similar happens with we are seeing drama. This is a theater going on. If the intellect is not able to grasp the theater, or not strong, not mature, then theater becomes real. Maybe for children, theater is real. That's why they are frightened of the dragon, frightened of the bad guy, ghosts. They are frightened, even in a drama, because they can't see it just as a theater. Everything gets mixed up. As we become adults, we are amused by the theater, because we know the real world. We can see the boundary clearly. In this drama, this is very convincing. This performance, what is going on, very convincing and very sophisticated. The way it is done, it doesn't look like a drama. Done in such a style, and the mountains and rivers and technology, all in the theater. We need an intellect that can handle this. Otherwise, we approach this theater as children, and then you are lost in it. With that childish intellect, you are lost in the first round, and then you are deceived. Then that is when ego comes, and ego gets bigger. It appears all normal. We create a society based on that delusion. That's what is happening. What the spiritual knowledge says, we already have the spiritual intellect. We have to use it. You are seeing the bigger map. And on this scale, this whole theater looks like camel and elephant drama. And that's why you can understand it, what is happening. And you can step beyond. Then you are amused. What amazing theater. What amazing performance. So much going on. Great gift. People pay money to watch war films and see terror or horror. In this film, in this performance, there is terror, there is horror, everything, free of charge. So you are amused by this, you know its place. And then that clarity stops ego getting its hold. And you are also enjoying the real world beyond. That's why you win both worlds the moment you step back. Was that very easy for Sarah to step back like this? This is all a theater, is it?
It just, it feels intuitively right that we can come here without being like a victim subconsciously, or a beggar for like, not physical things but also emotional things, and a slave. I remember I used to feel such a slave, to the job, and this subconscious feeling, but this notion that we is this the being that we are like here as guests, and that starting point don't need to go to the theatre. It's like that peace, and the rest, the feeling of that space beyond is like very complete peace. but then coming with happiness and lightness, not with compulsion, like I have to do this and I have to do that. But I think it would be nice if Prashant would expand on this, because it's the programming we have is of being subservient, I guess, to just looking after ourselves at the physical level. But do you want to share on that? Because that also helps to realize even the needs of the body.
Yeah.
We obviously, there is a need, but it's not that, doesn't have to come with a desperation. Do you want to share?
Sure, sure. Say we give a simple example. Say you come here as a guest, and let us say you were here for a day, and Sarah tells you, do you mind to look after this plant? And you are happy to look after the plant and give that plant water or soil or whatever that plant needs. But deep inside you know that you don't need that soil, you yourself don't need, you don't need the plant in the first place. But you are quite happy to do that job as a trustee, as enjoyable, you are happy to do it. There is little detachment, you have stepped back also. So one day there is less water, you say, okay, I'll find something, but internally there is no desperation. Because you know you are in safe. Even if the plant is not there, you are safe. At least you know this. Same happens here in this world. In earth, this invisible actor comes here, and he knows it is big drama, big theater, but it is a theater. It is temporary. He is not having impossible demands here. He knows of his exit, so that and in spite of the exit, he knows his world is safe. That is in place. And whilst here you are trustee of the body to start with, maybe trustee of some community, you got some duty in the job, in the college, you are happy to take on the duties, but all along you know that you are absolutely safe. If that job disappears, this disappears, people disappear, you are safe, you know this. And because of that deep sense of freedom and security, you interact in this world with contentment and peace and internally being noble. You can handle things changes because there is no energy of desperation or disappointment. These feelings will not be big. You deal with it more with lightness as a trustee. Let us solve this like playing a game. You are playing to win, but you also know how to fall, and you also know how to start again. You want to add anything?
It was just my mind went to someone may feel they understand, but it's like how to make it practical in everyday life. And I think some routine, because it's like touching base, it's like touching the ground, and in the morning to create, like, even if it's a few minutes, it can change a lot about the day. I think we don't realise the power of our thoughts. And most of the time, perhaps for many of us don't know how much we're thinking or what we're thinking, but really they're powerful because really it's who is thinking. Is it from the higher perspective? But that changes the way we see the world and this view of the playful, light attitude. But in relationships and in tasks, it has a huge knock-on effect. So it's really worth trying, say 5 minutes in the morning or a few minutes, and just observing like how you may feel differently, and then that inspires you to do more, and just taking a little, maybe like a diary to acknowledge that is managed. And just like even mid-morning could be 1 minute, but that kind of coming back to the idea. And we were talking earlier about writing, that could be in the form of writing, and expanding on it a little bit there. In the afternoon, maybe another minute, And certainly even just a few minutes just to kind of come back to what one can learn maybe from the day. And also, many of us, there are like challenges and we need good sleep. But it's not just quantity, it's the quality. So letting meditation be a routine before going to sleep and taking like at least half an hour without really engaging with the gadgets, that will improve the quality of your sleep, so then you are much more able to be attentive the next day. So that's where also meditation can be hugely helpful, to let go, let consciously come back and come from.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so nice hearing it, because I know in theory that's what's best to do, but it's just so hard to detach from gadgets and how busy life is before sleeping, and to just be in bed on the phone before you sleep is so easy to do. But when I hear someone else say it, it's almost so logical hearing that, well, if we can choose to be positive, and if our life, the character we're playing in the play, or however we see it, if that's going to be the same regardless, to be able to see that with a more happy, positive, light perspective than a negative, miserable one. Like I think most people would want to choose the happy perspective, and to remind ourselves of that perspective, whether it be notes or meditation, is such a good thing to be doing. And yeah, it's nice to hear someone else say it, because I think it's very hard to convince myself to always be doing good things like that before bed, and it's very easy to get trapped in the world of like gadgets and like TV shows, and just getting lost in a different like fantasy instead, to make yourself feel light, to escape from the reality. Yeah, so it's good to stick to good habits.
Yeah, keeping the like different tools, so more we look into it, and that our resources, and making it like a hobby energy. But there's nothing more satisfying than that simplicity, coming back to and how the mind is so happy when we're in that simplicity. But it's an interesting point, isn't it, that it's like these things, I guess we're pulled because they're entertaining. And but if we're looking for that entertainment, it's also like showing that there's something, that there's like a gap there.
Yeah.
So it's just having that, I guess, wisdom to just come back and experience the entertainment, but at a slightly different level, where this whole world is already hugely entertaining.
Yeah, it's like an interesting parallel there, where like the desire for the entertainment exists, but it's finding the different ways of like fulfilling that desire, and some of those ways just mean you're getting more involved. Yeah.
Do we add anything?
Well, I was thinking the one meditation which might be interesting is the notion of seeing the independence of this experience, and that is the analogy of the driver and the car. So we ourselves are like the driver, and the body is the car. And so it's a really simple analogy. Do you want to share on this?
Okay. It is like a very straightforward, simple practice. Just as we know there is a driver sits in the car in a certain place. In the same way, we see this body in the image of a car, and his eyes are like the windows. And the driver is seated behind these windows. We see this image. the invisible actor, we see that invisible actor as the invisible driver. And right now, he is seated behind these windows. That is, he's seated behind the eyes. At this moment, he is looking out through these windows, seeing the colors and images in this place. Who is making sense of all this that is seen? Not the windows, but the driver seated behind the windows. We are just aware of the presence of this driver. We see this invisible driver in the image of a tiny star. Living star, seated behind the windows. Right now we also hear some sound. Who is making sense of this sound? Not the ears, but the driver is the one who needs to know of the words that are spoken, and the sound. He is the one who makes sense. We are just aware of the presence of the invisible driver. Otherwise, if he himself is unconscious, ego becomes conscious. And ego sees the body itself as a driver. It is all mixed. Car and the driver all gets mixed for the ego. So we also experience the sensations of this body, sensations from the joints, and aware that who is making sense of all this information. Of course, that tiny star seated behind the eyes. We are just becoming aware that there is an invisible driver here that is helping the driver to become conscious. Invisible driver is also the invisible guest. Driver is never part of the car. Driver is always a guest in the car. And being a guest, the driver feels very secure. Criticism of the car is not the criticism of the driver. Even the absence of the car is not the absence of the driver. The invisible driver knows of his independence from the car. The invisible driver knows of his world beyond. That is independent of the car and the world of the car. As we continue on our journey, in the world beyond or in the traffic of the car, we remember the simple truth that there is the driver, and the invisible driver is the invisible guest. And most important, he is safe and secure, regardless of what happens in the world of the cars. Thank you. This word, feeling safe, secure, this is a key area in the meditation aspect. Even if someone creates a 1 minute to remind that security from beyond, that is the important part here, then that is real security. To give you one example, one girl, student, but she was doing postdoctorate, something. She said, that's an example I'm telling. She said she was getting so nervous at the time of her presentation in the department that she used to spoil each time. When it is time for presentation of her, some paper research, she used to get so nervous, she used to spoil. She was in one of the sessions, and she said when next time she went there, she would just remember that the invisible actor, he's safe. And things may go wrong here completely, but this is theater going on. The actor is safe. At the end of it, I'm okay. I'm secure, safe. And she said, just this one reminder, one sentence reminder, completely changed her performance. Because when she understood she's secure, she was now playing the game, and she was light and confident. And other side came in. When that factor was not in place, and that someone might disagree with what she's saying, and then you are a victim, poor me, and then what will, and then she felt all of her is insecure, and that she was operating with this adrenaline of, the moment she understood the bigger map, okay, the whole thing might be completely proved wrong, but I'm safe. The actor is safe. So we don't have to wait for the last minute situations like this, but each time of our meditation practice, definitely to bring in this one sentence that, no, we don't say superficially I am safe. That letter I is used by ego and it appears, so you are superficially saying, body is not really safe. But we are saying this is part of the drama. There are limitations in the drama. Drama has a script, but the reality behind is truly secure. And there is no reason we have to just ignore that. We need to remain connected to that. And then you enjoy this drama better, unconditional. Things can come, go, change, but you are unconditionally, you are stable. That actually helps you do it better. Then you are better Prime Minister.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's very good. Be better at whatever job it is that we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's ironic somehow, isn't it, that we think we have to be more thinking about the role, but actually this stepping back, and we come with that fullness, and it's we play a better game.
Yeah, yeah, it's really ironic.
Paradox of play, and it's needing the two wings. The two wings. It's like the two sides of the brain. So the right side of the brain is seeing the big picture, and that it is a game. It sees the whole thing. On the left side, it's like, playing the game to win and looking at the details and analysing.
Yeah.
But in society, we often reinforce and emphasise the left side and understand less and practice and support less the right side. But we need both wings to fly. So that bigger map and the lightness and the, happy to win, happy to lose, the piece coming from the left. Then we actually perform better on both.
Yeah, both end up happier and more positive in the end.
Look forward to hearing your reflections after reviewing and...
Yeah, there's a lot of things I need to get my head around, I think. Yeah, going back over, replaying certain parts and to get my head around all of it still. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for answering any questions I had. I feel like my brain was racing about some of the things with the ego is quite hard to grasp still, because I think what you said about ego comes up in a lot of different kind of schools of thought, and so it's very hard to work out which one we're thinking about here. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.